We are officially live on Vibe Osmosis.
Got it.
Well. Welcome to Vibe Osmosis.
Uh,
I guess the
uh,
first of the
uh,
spooky time. I started this thing like about a year ago, so it's really interesting on like the progression, I think, and especially or the lack of like content that I didn't put out that I've been sitting on. I was
yeah,
I was just looking over some of these reviews and or like these interviews that I never still like put together, even though they were like so old, and like I even found some that like I was like totally forgot about. Like I was like, I really interviewed that person, like, and I didn't do anything with that. Like, what the fuck was I doing? That's, I guess, life, right?
right.
All right, so if this is all working correctly, hopefully it is. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Zac Basket. I am a filmmaker and I make uh decent shit on YouTube. So, stuff that
Piece of
isn't,
content.
so that kind of content, that sort of, that good funny shit you'd see on TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of good stuff to get addicted to. 8 hours on your phone every day. That's what's up.
Or as they say on H3, cheers, my dude.
Yeah, there we go.
So, one of the essential vibe osmosis questions I love to start off with is, how old are you? Your astrology sign? Do you follow astrology? Let's break into that.
I am 23 years old. I am a Cancer. I don't think with my brain. I think with my heart. That's what I think with. And what was the third thing?
The astrology, like, do you believe in it? Do you follow it?
Not really, but I know a lot of people that do, and I respect that. But you know, I don't know. I definitely think before. I definitely speak before I think. So I think that being a Cancer, I identify with that. I can get down with, you know, being the crab symbol.
Right. I guess in that sign itself, the crab and it being close to, the ocean and water and stuff, do you like identify as like being, like preferred to, get wet or be by the ocean or you enjoy swimming? Is that kind of like a thing?
I was very sad when I heard that Jimmy Buffett died, and I consider myself very much a parent head in many sorts of the fashion. So I feel like if when I'm 70 and dying of whatever disease microplastics would entail my death to be, I would love to die by the ocean with a margarita in my hand and maybe living on a boat. So I do enjoy the water and the ocean. So
I, all right, so
R.I.P. Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett didn't kill himself, even though he was on the Epstein list. Jimmy Buffett, you can look it up. It's true, but Jimmy Buffett didn't kill himself.
all right, so I mean, I've done the whole like van, like living in a van, living in your car, traveling, trying to do the whole like music, etc. thing. But I've really been interested in the whole boat life because you're able to go, coast to coast, travel, especially if you're like you just go down to Miami and then from Miami you could go basically anywhere to a certain extent if you have your passport, if you're a good American and that kind of stuff. But also, like, what I think it would be the most scariest aspect about this is like whenever you're the driver, now you're having to navigate the ocean, not like cars and streets and people. Like you're the stuff that you can control is literally Mother Nature that you have like no, you just have to like navigate and coast through it. And that I think that part is like that's the journey. That was what makes it interesting or different every time, I'm sure, than like people like touring, like and getting in the car and just going. And like, obviously they're gonna say like every city is a little bit different or have some similarities, but whenever you compare to like a person who's living their life on the boat, like that's whenever you're like everything is really different, or maybe my life is more chaotic or on the run or simple if you were really good at doing the boat life.
I
Do
guess.
you think
Yeah. I think living on a boat is stupid as shit. The reason why I feel like is because you're more cramped than living in a van.
yeah,
And not only that, but you're not even on solid land. You're at the liberty of God in
yeah,
that sort of situation. So, I feel like that
a
any
rainy
man
night.
that, man wasn't meant to live on the water. I feel like that's been proven time and time again by all the hurricanes we keep getting thrown at us. So I don't know. I think van life and boat life are stupid. Is just I don't know. Stay on land, you dumbass.
All right, so speaking of this theme or topic, there's so many movies out there that are like based off of survival instinct 101, getting trapped on
Yeah,
an island, having to go to an island and escape these scientists or doctors or whatever.
yeah.
What do you think about that? It speaks cinema. You know what I mean? Like what about that do you think drives people to like with the last thing that's really big is like White Lotus. Like you're going to a resort and all this, drama is happening, but what about that you think makes it good cinema?
I think it's all due to the characters. It's all due to the characters, the writing. Um, what is the central conflict? Between. I mean, when you're on an island, you even in modern times, a lot of sort of storylines and uh just what am I trying to say here? Like premises
Yeah.
of stories, like they can all be like solved with like a cell phone call and shit like that. Whereas like if you literally have characters on a desert island, or if they're on I don't know a rock or on in outer space, just some bullshit like that. Like you give them you make your premise kind of foolproof to be like, okay, they have to solve their issues right here and now because they're stuck. They don't have any other, ways of escape.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it works out well. I mean, it's kind of like a easy sort of, I don't know, uh, bailout if you want to have a premise that is pretty to be solved easily, I guess. I mean, that's the reason why like who done it uh like mysteries are great on things like boats and trains and places where you can't really escape from them, so absolutely. That's the biggest thing that I feel like being trapped on an island sort of movies and TV shows kind of are able to get away with. And also just a kind of experimentation. I mean, I don't know if Lost is the best example, but because I think Lost kind of sucked, but I do think that them trying to go like all surreal and David Lynch with it towards the end, I like that, but they never really fully committed to it. So I thought it was kind of shitty.
Um, one of I mean, I recently just shared this and seen one of like my all-time favorites ever since ever was Alfred Hitchcock. And
Yeah.
now that I'm older and rewatching this for like now for different reasons. When I was younger, it was because, oh, my dad thought this movie was scary growing up. I need to check out the birds because, it has like all these different elements. And now that I'm like older, I'm able to kind of dissect on like what made that film back then so conveyable to the audience and like
Oh
why
yeah,
that
absolutely.
spoke.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
other than just like that was just the time period, like they say about like everything now was like Oh, it was just the time to pass. But one thing like I find about like Alfred Hitchcock, he can touch on these aspects of like what's fantasy, you know what I mean? Like what could be fantasy realm like.
Yeah.
But then also give you that twist of like the realism aspect of these characters and their development, like how that can you know what I mean, translate with you as far as like your own fears or like your own navigation of like with like you know with Psycho, it's like your
Mhm.
own navigation between like horror and like what is like the new American way of scary situations, you
Well,
know?
absolutely. Like, I feel like Hitchcock, was an absolute pioneer when it came to psychological horror and cinema and stuff like that. Especially,
Different
you know,
ways,
and,
dry ways too at
yeah,
times.
like before like the 20th century with like World War I and World War II, we had conflicts and shit like that, but a lot of our horror was due to like cryptids and like shit like that. Like, oh yeah, it's the main, you know, tree man. It's the tree man of Newport, Maine, or whatever the fuck. Like just like these weird, like made
Yeah.
up like folk tales that made no fucking sense. And I feel like because you know, people were watching movies in the 20th century, like in like the 30s, the 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on, into now. We're like, we've seen people getting blown up. We've seen people get poisoned. We've seen people, go through some really horrific kind of shit. And I feel like Hitchcock was like a true pioneer in terms of us, like beginnings of us exploring it. One of the things, I'm gonna talk about the Feet Man for a little bit. Tarantino.
Yeah.
One of the things that I liked what he told me, what he said, like on a podcast when he was talking about Hitchcock, was that Hitchcock was kind of held back a lot by the times of which he made movies, like during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, was because it was during the Hays Code era. So, like, but we were able to explore a lot of stuff like Rear Window and
Nice. Yeah.
of course, like there's Psycho, there's the Birds, stuff like that. Maybe the Birds is a good example because it's just fucking birds. But it does deal with I feel like grief and just like psychological trauma. A lot of his movies deal with traumatic sort of elements to them. So yeah, I absolutely know where can understand where the elements of horror, everything kind of like goes back in modern horror wise into Hitchcock. If you didn't have Hitchcock, you wouldn't have The Exorcist. You wouldn't have one of my favorite movies, Jacob's Ladder. Love that movie. You would not have, the kind of filmmakers with like David Lynch, like going as far as he does with psychological and surrealist sort of stuff. So yeah, like uh love him. Love Hitchcock. He's not one of my favorites, but he's definitely, like a pure, like elemental sort of tier. Like if you want to get into movies, even if you're not even like a horror person, like Hitchcock is just great for drama, thriller, South by Southwest. He was very good with just more so than just horror itself. He was just good with suspense. He was great with like very suspenseful uh eras of drama. A lot of this stuff comes from German, theater shit from like the 20s and 30s, like a lot of expressionist sort of stuff. So yeah, like love him to death.
Now, one thing that I really see like the correlation between well, in this case, like the way to make something iconic that travels throughout time, besides putting in like these important messages, and the film itself, um for example, like with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, fault like with Alfred Hitchcock doing Psycho and following like somewhat of a true story, but also giving it a twist that you know Americanizes it or gives you that like better breadth of like what's really going on.
Hmm.
And then you get this development later on in the 70s with you know Texas Chainsaw Massacre that still follows you know the Ed Gein story, and then you're also getting like the own twist about like what that would really be like in a house that's you know terrifying you don't want to be trapped in.
Well, then like you also like you have the building blocks for other like horror from across the ocean during that point. Like in '77, you had House, which
Yeah,
that like changed the game absolutely for horror. I mean, don't watch that movie on a date. I would recommend watching that movie on a date, but I absolutely love it. And also you have to owe the Italians a lot of praise for their forget the name of it. There's a name of that genre of it, but it's like
not the
Italian.
noir. Yeah, I'm. It's like noir, not the noir or
Yeah, it's like it's just like novel, like a novel, like novel based,
ah.
like it's like very like pulpy, like vampiristic sort of like horror that came out from like '70s Italian movies. I have like a VHS somewhere that's called like it's I think it's called like Hatchet for a Honeymoon, and it's literally about a man who just marries women just so he could kill them with a hatchet, like just like a straight up just axe. Um, and yeah, like, and then in the '80s you have uh great stuff that goes into the slasher genre. One of my favorites during that era, because I mean the '80s was kind of very like self-censoring when it came to horror movies and even just like yeah, the '80s weren't as the '80s like basically tried to erase all the pessimism of the '70s. Because the '70s, it's like you could have a movie end with all the main characters dying in a car crash, like in um Crazy Mary, Crazy Larry, whatever that movie's called. And you could get or like well I think the one of the greatest like last breaths of like the pessimism of the '70s was like Raging Bull, because that came out like in '80. That was like
Yeah.
the very like tail end of that, because that movie ends with a fat a fat boxer, like
Future.
trying to relive his glory days, even though
Yeah.
he's too far gone. He's like Jake LaMotta,
I would
as
love to meet
interesting as interesting as a story is, like he was just through and through like an absolute fucking piece of shit. So and to portray him in that like sort of like way of not holding back, but also like you still as an audience member, because you're the acting of Robert De Niro in that movie too was just so powerful that you were able to relate to him. You were able to understand why he was doing the actions that he was doing. But
Uh,
I'm
even
kind of getting
even
I'm kind of getting off track here.
yeah,
But
I say even the whole random like I'm married, but I'll still bang this 16-year-old girl and try to take her over to my, you know,
yeah, like
that
and
was
just
one of
like
the things where
completely.
I was like, okay, that's a thing of its time because like people back in the day could be 12 years, 13 years different, and it wouldn't be
Mhm.
as like I don't know, scrutinized as it is in today's society because we have internet and social media and stuff. I don't know. That portrayal was one of those things whenever I was younger. I didn't realize it until as I got older to kind of put my shoes and see like, well, like that his story is so crazy.
Yeah, like I I'm trying to think here. I mean, there's a bunch of movies during that time that were like that. But to get back on track, what I was saying, one of my favorite like '80s like horror films, especially during like this era, with it being Halloween, with it being the spooky season. One of my favorites is a movie called Henry, the
Henry,
portrait
yeah,
of a serial killer. Have you ever
yeah,
heard of this?
definitely watched it so many times.
There,
No.
there's there's something. So I love movies that are able to retain a certain timelessness with them, while also using like modern tech like in their stories, because I feel like a lot of films now who set their movies like in contemporary times, except for Talk to Me. Talk to Me kind of use that in a very good way. I like the way that film like used modern technology to kind of forward its narrative with kind of like the whole like peer pressure and social media presence sort of thing. But what Henry does to me is that like it takes, when that movie came out, I think 85 or 86, what it did was that like it really, pushed forward this like snuff film, sort of like almost like early era of like watch people die, like on like or like live leak sort
Yeah.
of videos, because like the main character in the movie, uh Henry, he has this like he uh falls in love with like this girl, and then like meanwhile like her brother or stepbrother, it's been a while since I've seen it, like tries to have sex with her, and it's like this weird like dichotomy sort of thing. And both Henry and this guy that he befriends, like Henry murders someone, and the guy is like unfazed by it. He's like, holy shit, you actually did that. This is exciting, but what are we gonna do about the body and stuff? And this guy's like a fat, greasy, disgusting hick that like just I love the casting of that movie because it really reckoned back to a time where you could cast any like disgusting looking fucker off the street and have them be like the main character in your movie. Like it was absolutely blew me away. But I mean, my favorite aspect of Henry was, again, it took advantage of like this, you know, uh home movie cassette era stuff, and it pushed it to its absolute limit with them like documenting all of these like horrific shit that they would do. And like my favorite scene in that movie is like they're sitting down like in this fucking disgusting like living room, and they're watching this like whole movie they put together, and they like edited it and like made it like into like their own like little short. And what it is them like literally like breaking into someone's house and murdering an entire family. And at the end, like his like buddy's like, "Ugh, I will rewatch that again." And he like rewinds the whole thing and tries to watch it again. And it was like, man, like it was very early, I feel like, to like the sort of like portrayal of like desensitization to like actual like gore and stuff like that. Stuff that, I feel like that you and I's generation kind of went through, with we always had that weird kid, when we were like eating gushers and drinking, Capri Suns at the lunch table, and they'd be like, "Hey dude, did you see this shit?" And he just shows you like a cartel member getting beheaded like in the middle of like, I don't know, like a gas station or something. And it's like, what the, yeah, it's like,
Yeah, you got me on that.
what? And this is like, and you see this when you're like 11 years old. Like, this is like an actual thing. Like, this is not a unique experience. Now, granted, I grew up in the boondocks. I grew up in a small town called Greenville, Ohio, where people would drive like their tractors to high school and shit like that. And we had a very big Amish community, but along with that, we had a really big trashy community as well. Like, even times when I visit back now, there are people there that still wear like True Religion jeans, and they wear like Jenko like kind of shit. Very much like a wigger sort of sort of passion. So yeah, like it yeah, like but yeah, I mean, I definitely knew kids growing up during my time, like in like elementary school and middle school, where they were just like find these videos and show them to me. And I feel like, again, like Henry really was early to the ball game when it came to that sort of stuff. Yeah, I absolutely loved it.
Now, I'm sure you probably watched this one too. The movie Bully.
Yes, yes. Oh yeah.
So that movie, I watched that in like high school. My sister was the one that like she was reading the book and they were like, "Yo, there's a movie about this." And like I was like, obviously I'm not gonna sit here and read the book because I was young. So I watched the movie and I got it on Netflix. I got it, sent to the house, and just playing my entire night to watch this movie. And the movie, fucking, I see now how it kind of traumatized me. But Nick Stahl's character, you're so with him and against him at the same time. You're rooting for him, and then you're also like, I would hate to have this guy as a friend. And obviously, I see why they wanted to, for a spoiler alert, go against him and kill him. And then whenever I looked up, like in college, like looked up like the real story, I was like, wow, like these kids really went through like a traumatizing guy, even though like this guy was a bad guy, they took it upon themselves to kill them.
Yeah.
And just and the funny, I think the big karma aspect of it was like it didn't help anybody, even though they thought it would help them escape everything. And that was just one of those movies whenever I watched it, like I could kind of relate to, as far as like, yeah, like you see some outsiders, or you definitely like realize the cliques, and you don't necessarily always know what's going on behind doors. And that, I think that to me was like, okay, like I want to also like address I don't know, other films and movies in that sense of like the character is like what later on took me to that, from that movie, was like Natural Born Killers. I didn't watch Natural Born Killers until after I watched Bully, and it really, I don't know, changed my perspective on like how you can see another bad guy kind of transform too, besides like A Clockwork Orange, watching that pretty young.
Well,
I didn't
like,
really put two and two together about like the transformation of a person, especially in like how that translates on cinema.
mhm.
For like people that are younger, that don't even have like shit for experience, you know what I mean, that still find that entertaining or engaging, you know.
Absolutely. I feel like I mean there's a strong parallel I feel like you can draw between like those sort of like characters like that you described, like in Bully and Natural Born Killers. I there's something so interesting to me. I've had this like obsession too for like the past like year or so. With me, I'm working on two features right now, both of which are very inspired by early 2000s media and films during that time.
We're gonna break into a few different things. Okay, so first one, favorite caller.
My favorite color is blue.
Okay, and why is it blue? Why does it resonate with you?
So I like blue because it's a good color. I like jeans. I like denim. Um, yeah, like Nate, denim loafer. I love I feel like it's blue is a very Midwest, very good color. My second favorite color is orange. So blue and orange for me are very, very, very good colors because I love the sun. I love I don't know. Blue is cool and orange is rad. So
Here's my next thing. So with making films now, do you kind of still prefer this like new age digital wave thing, or do you kind of still prefer the old school way of doing things, if like you really had your hands like on better film and better film cameras?
I mean, ideally, like if I get the budget, which hopefully is soon, fingers and toes crossed, like I really hope to shoot on actual 35 millimeter. But here's the thing. I am all for like new technology to really like push the boundaries for like the actual like art, like the physical act of filmmaking. Writing, though, like writing, it comes from a person's mind. Writing comes from a person's mind. It never comes from a computer. You can write on a computer. You can write that. You can come up with your ideas, from other people's stuff. But at the end of the day, like a computer can't write a compelling story. A human has to write a compelling story.
I
But the way that's put to screen, though, I feel like that. I feel like like any kind of like good, you know, um, filmmaker that kind of like turns the leaves of time and kind of like changes the game and kind of like brings in like new waves of creative like ability to their stuff. They should absolutely try out the new technology and then try out like just new techniques and new aspects, because that's what forwards the medium. So absolutely, like you know I prefer to shoot on film, absolutely, but if it came down to I don't know, like I don't know, like having like a character's dialogue completely done with like AI, or like have like an animated like segment that is like rotoscoped using like a software or something. Absolutely. I'd love to try out just like stuff like that. The one thing I hate though is anti-aging technology. That shit sucks. And I feel like if you were to anti-age someone, I mean, like that's the reason why like and you can put us up. I have a Finsta, like a fake Instagram called Ricky's Food Reviews, and you know about it. Like it's that's a parody of that kind of shit. It's a parody of like anti-aging or like aging like stuff like that. Like I feel like you can do that shit great with makeup, but the technology isn't there, and I don't think the technology will ever really be there for like actual like aging sort of technology. At least not like in our lifetimes. I feel
okay.
like if you really want to have a character that ages, then fucking cast
Mhm.
someone that looks like them, or cat like
You're gonna follow them for 10 years.
oh yeah, or follow, do the boyhood thing. Whatever works. I mean, do that, but like the aging of a human, you can it is so fucking hard to
Okay,
influence that.
so you weren't a fan of how like the
I
Irishman.
hate I hated The Irishman. I'm gonna come out and say
What?
that The Irishman fucking sucked. No, I hated it.
All right, so to me, I thought that movie was really good because before, obviously, I was really well read upon, and I also known I watched the movie with Jack Nicholson where he also played the Teamster dude,
Yeah, Hoffa.
Alpha, yeah. So I was just like, I don't know. This is like I watched that old movie with Jack Nicholson years before. I did not expect the Irishman to throw in that curveball of like you're getting Robert De Niro, but you're changing Robert De Niro. I thought that was really interesting
I thought
personally.
it was fucking boring. Like
or,
I
or
thought, for me, I thought I was like just like a
people noted.
slog. Like I didn't care. Um, like it was, that was the thing, man. It was like like the most interesting part to me was like towards the end when he was like growing old and like everyone started dying off. Like
Yeah.
that should have been, I feel like, more center point of the movie. But obviously, that wasn't where all the drama was. And where all the drama was that I really didn't give a shit. I didn't grow up in this. I didn't grow up in the '60s. I like it, like the way that they like wrote it and the way it was made. Like
Yeah.
I could not have given less of a shit. And not only that, but I feel like The Irishman
I watched it like
really.
4 times. Like I watched it too many times.
I've seen it twice, and like both times I watched it, and I watched the entire thing. I
Yeah,
watched all
it's,
4 goddamn hours
yeah,
of it
it
or
takes a
whatever.
while. Yeah.
I yeah, I watched the whole thing. And the thing is with The Irishman is that like it is the pinnacle reason why I hate big studios. And the reason why it's like,
Netflix had to step in, I guess.
but the re the reason why I hate it so much was that, you know, studios will not give like a creative idea like 50 grand or like pennies to them, but they will give Robert De Niro, fuck, not Robert De Niro, they will give Martin Scorsese $200 goddamn million
Yeah.
just so they can make Robert De Niro look slightly younger. And like, like I love how Scorsese, and this is my critique about him. I think Scorsese is a great filmmaker, but my one critique about him is that like he's all about like fighting for the little guy and like, really, supports cinema and supports like, all aspects of it, the history of it and everything like that. Meanwhile, he gets money, 200 million fucking dollars to make a film, and all that he can do with that money is use it to de-age Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and shit. Like I thought, what a fucking waste. What a waste of resources,
Yeah.
money, time, effort. Like,
I guess that was
yeah.
the emphasis or whatever, the emphasis on the time. I don't know. One of the other movies that's obviously big
It's like
on the
here's the thing.
80s is
Here's the thing. Sorry. I mean, this is where I'll end on my tangent. This is where I'll end. I promise. Okay. Like you and me, like the way we dress, the way like we are, like we live in a culture of ghosts. We live in a nostalgia culture.
yeah, yeah.
Like we live on a culture like based on like nostalgia and old shit. I mean, I love old shit. I literally have like, like an old TV like on the floor back here, and I have like a laser disc player. I have VHS shit. Like, yeah, I love old shit, but I feel like that shouldn't influence the way our fucking money is spent on media and movies. We should explore new avenues. We should explore new storylines. We should like I want to see pessimistic piece of shit characters. I want to see just like, really compelling arcs, really, like well shot, well made films that aren't completely justified on some dumbass actor or some dumbass director who's like, here's a mafia movie for the 15th fucking time, and we're gonna fucking do it, but with this new technology to make the actor look slightly younger. Like that's that's where I'm gonna leave off with this. I feel like that is the vibe. That is the con coming from a nostalgia culture. We're bringing back a lot of cool shit. We're bringing back notice to a lot of underrated and like great films that are now cult classics. But on the same time, if we keep living this nostalgia culture, it's gonna keep recycling shit, and it's just, I mean, and I feel like that's also the byproduct of like Marvel movies and stuff like that. It's like a recyclization of character and story, the same premise done over and over and over again. And I feel like we're starting to see the end of that now with a lot of like bigger like indie projects starting to earn
Yeah.
more money
Indie
than
pretty one.
superhero films. But yeah, I'm gonna leave off with that. I mean, The Irishman, it's a piece of shit, and yeah, I hated it.
What was
But go on.
what was your take on the Curious Case of Benjamin Button with Brad Pitt? Like, I think his development was the one where you're like, I know what you look like, and you're getting everything else but what you look like until certain points. And that was one of those ones where I was like, yeah, you have to be really invested on the story or like really immersive in the love aspect.
It's
You know,
just stupid. I
and
just
it's
thought
really
that movie was just dumb. Like I thought, like also not only that, but like Benjamin Button is the least interesting character of the fucking movie.
yeah, he was the one where you were like, I want to see what else they're doing besides, I guess now that I get what they're doing with you.
I wanted to watch a whole movie just on like the sailboat captain or like the
Yeah.
tattoo guy. He was like
Where's
the
Coach
most
Doug?
interesting guy in the entire movie. And he fucking like he's only in it for like 30 minutes.
He had a
Like they
sea leg.
introduce him, 30 minutes later they kill him off. Like I was like, this is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, his life on the boat was short lived. Back to the boat thing. All right, so
No, no more boat shit.
all right, another one. My favorite all time space movie, Sunshine. Are you familiar?
No, I've never heard of it.
So Sunshine has Killian Murphy in it, and it's like also they're literally traveling to the sun, which is really really interesting because they're like trying to also have like this drama, these dynamics between these characters, but we are also getting them traveling to new realms. Whenever I was younger and I watched the movie, obviously it really deeply inspired me about like the space continuum or trying to travel on and like keep like preserving life on the spaceship, which is one
Yeah.
of the like, key aspects I thought was really good. But you're getting, I'm not going to ruin too much of it since you haven't seen it, but you're getting the aspect of sabotage. And there are really great movies about sabotage. And
Hmm.
this one in particular was one of those ones where I was like, this is the ultimate epitome of sabotaging yourself, even though wherever you're going could be great or could be the worst thing ever. You're still isolated in this idea of like you're living in your head, you're living through like trying to navigate relationships and stuff like that. Do you ever find yourself like in that self-doubt of sabotage, or like you want to work on this or whatever, but you're sabotaging yourself by, procrastinating or whatever? Do you kind of ever go through that?
I mean, like, sure. Like, right now, I'm going through a weird moment because I'm in the process of moving. But at the same time, it's like, this whole year has gone by so really the past like 2 years have gone by so fucking fast for me with like I've made a documentary, I've made two festivals showing shorts now, and I started to like really take like comedy, like doing like improv and doing stage stuff, sort of like semi seriously. Like I just like putting myself out there really. And also just like, doing the whole like social media thing, like putting myself out there, making goofy shit, like kind of,
People don't do
you
it.
know, doing that sort of stuff. And but it's like right now, it's like in September, I went to Detroit and Chicago. I visited some friends. I visited a lot of people I haven't seen in a while, and saw a lot of musicians that I love. And I met a lot of new people. And then I went and visited my parents in Florida. And that was like my vacation, like living like the Jimmy Buffett, like parrot head, getting drunk every day sort of lifestyle. And recently, and I just got back last week, and then this weekend had a really big wedding that was very fun, and I was recovering all yesterday. So, like, yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to get back into it, like, just like, well, not get back into it, I should say, just like kind of enjoying some time off, but also, kind of preparing because I know once I move to LA, I know it's gonna be a circus, and I know like things are gonna get a lot faster and things are gonna get a lot crazier. So like right now, I'm kind of like taking like a deep breath in terms of life right now and really just trying to figure out, my next moves, figure out like what's the plan for spring because my plan is to pitch um two features next spring and try to get some money. Hopefully I can get those funds and start shooting next year.
Cool.
And yeah, just like trying to see like where my trajectory is from here. Just sort of like putting together my post grad sort of like game plan into like what projects am I going to be spending most time on, what kind of goofy shit I'm going to make in between, and also just like like yeah, just like an overall sort of take a deep breath now and then hit the grindstone back again because all of this year was just me working like hell to get to this point, and now I'm at this point and now it's like okay, I'm sort of preparing right now, like this is the calm before the storm. So I mean my piece of advice right now is that like if you were to take on a super big project or if you were to make a super big just like life decision, like I feel like you deserve like take off, put in your 2 weeks at work, take some time off, take a relaxer, and then just get ready for to hit the fucking ground running again. So that's where I'm at.
One one thing I've experienced personally a lot recently since the whole strike was, people just like reaching out and saying, since this is going on, what's your views on this? Also, like because people are out of jobs, and obviously these shows need people to write for. Do you like have any interest on like trying to get part of a production company and that kind of stuff? And at the end of the day, I still find myself like the reason why I think we are in this artistic war is because, well, I mean, besides people have to live and eat and have like actual insurances, a lot of people think about it as like this big competition world, even though it's not much of a competition whenever you really put about it in the grand scheme of things, whenever you're getting stuff presented on all the like award academy shows and that kind of stuff, you're getting
Right.
really broad perspective on from short films to everything on so many genres about uh about stuff that has broken through the regular screen as far as like your local community. And that is one thing I think is really interesting too, is besides the people that break out of the local thing and have like a broader perspective, maybe, or like a wider span bandwidth of like people that are inputting. But do you think like that kind of affects like the way that you work, knowing like the kind of situation that the artistic world is in, especially right now with like the fight with AI and all that kind of stuff?
I mean, like, I feel like anyone, has writer's block or goes through like a creative dip, but I feel like, I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously, if you get paid to write and you're on strike, then yeah, why the fuck should you write? Because you're getting paid for it, so why
Definitely.
not? But I feel
Why
like
would you
also,
want to allow somebody else to take your job just because you are literally advocating for your right?
well, I have a lot, I have friends that live out there that have actually been like on the picket lines and, like doing like this kind of shit. I mean, the writer's strike's like just ending, and I think the actors guild is, still in talks right now. Um, I feel like I don't know, like this is a great time to see like the survival of the fittest. I mean, really, if you again, it's like I said earlier, if you love cinema all with your heart, if you want to do this shit, like yeah, you need to write it out. You need to ride this shit to the end, and take this time. I mean, I feel like anyone that's affected by like the writer's strike or like the actor's strike should really take this time kind of like COVID, like kind of like do some self-reflection and just like make some strange shit because where when is there going to be another time when you get and start working and you get up and you're going back to your grindstone like sort of thing where you're going to have time to experiment. It's like no, and I mean like that's the reason why I'm happy to be kind of entering that world at this time because we're entering like a film movement now that's post COVID and it's post like strikes and a lot of audiences are fed up with superhero shit. A lot of audiences are fed up with franchise movies. I mean, hell, like the Transformers movie bombed, the Indiana Jones movie bombed.
Which I
Like,
did watch that. Anti-aging was shit.
yeah,
Was
absolutely.
bad.
He looked like a mannequin. For
Yeah. Beginning
like,
hack. No.
yeah, it's like so like we're entering an era right now where I can see like a new wave, like a new wave, like a new wave of like younger filmmakers starting to come in and experiment. There's been a lot of like first time directorial debuts recently. Um, this last month, AMC announced that they're doing submissions like to do distribution for like indie. Like you can submit your movie file and AMC will enter it into being like distributed for you, and like that is monumental. Like that's like similar to what directors did like during like the late 60s and early
I
70s
think
with movies like,
Renaissance.
yeah, it's like where I feel like we're really entering a new sort of renaissance just artistically and narratively with movies. So I'm interested to see where it goes. And yeah, I really want to see just like more new trailblazer sort of directors come out. I want to see more. There's been more attention now with festivals more than ever in terms of getting movies for distribution and getting movies for um, uh, um, yeah, just try to get hits. I mean, like for example, Talk to Me, that the A24 bought that it wasn't A24 production, it was A24 distribution. Um, Same thing with Bottoms, and same thing with I believe like Dick's the Musical was the same shit.
Oh,
So yeah, like there's been a ton of movies coming out this year that are distribution films and not like actually produced by the company itself. So I'm really hoping to see more of that. And I'm really, you know, we'll see how the tides turn, but maybe I'll have a film that'll be in that wave. We'll see. I hope so.
I like to imagine myself personally. We talked about Vincent Gallo before, but if you think about think about his early work, the man came up out of the woodworks and then navigated throughout so many different stars to then be coming in that movie with The Funeral with like Christopher Walken, where it's like also gangsterish in the 90s. And then you see the later on development of Vincent Gallo where you see the realism aspect and also what you wanted to be actually immersive because this actor, this person is a legit person that's real, that's providing you all this material. As we talked about in, the Brown Bunny, it's like, yeah, you're getting a realistic point of view on like what this narrative is, even though like it's a film. How do
Yeah,
you feel
like
about how do you feel about real stuff happening in films that may be like not so accepted society norm wise? It'd be
I mean,
different
I have
if Serbian film was like all real, you know what I mean? But in
yeah.
this
I
aspect,
mean, I mean, a lot of those films get snubbed. A lot of those films get censored. I mean, I feel
yeah,
like audiences, I feel like general audiences deserve to see some of that shit once in a while. It's
definitely.
definitely, a audiences need more of a reality check. And it's hard. That's been hard always in American cinema. Foreign cinema is different in that regard. Like, if you see like the films that, that come out from like French distribution, like the movie Fat Girl, for example, that movie having as much fucked up shit as it does in that, and that was a, theatrically distributed film. Um, yeah, like I don't it's hard to say. Like, I mean, Vincent Gallo is a tough person to talk about in that regard in terms of his movie. What The Brown Bunny wasn't distributed wide. It wasn't, it got booed out of the biggest festival that it could have ever shown at. And it didn't really make an impact on the audience initially. But I feel like most films that have a proper impact and a proper really just sort of like solidification in like the halls and the history of movies and cinema or whatever. They always seem to be bombers at first. They always seem to be, non-accepted into the fold or into the mold of what the general consensus of the movie what movies are at that time. But then as the art form evolves and as it you know morphs and tweaks and really it starts to become like new movements become normalized and more more anti-heroes come to be and whatnot. Like people look back on these movies and are like, damn, like this they were on to something at this point, but it wasn't people weren't that accepting of it. And I feel like Brown Bunny kind of falls in that category where like I feel like that movie really is like a creative like artist uh creating at their height of their form because Vincent Gallo really wasn't a filmmaker. I mean, the whole reason why Buffalo 66 was as good as it was because of its producers. Vincent Gallo was not a good director. There's been Q&As done with some people from that set, and they talk about how befuddled and how stressed out he was. And
Yeah.
granted, I feel like that he's a good writer. He's good at narrative. He's good at creating, you know, really sort of like solidifying himself, but also creating like these worlds and these characters. But
Oh.
I got my caffeine running through
Yeah,
me, so I'm all good now. I'm
so
I'm normal.
so break it down. You've been playing or you've been, making movies for a while. Like when did you start making your own films? And like before, did you do anything different? Like did you have like your own like idea of like what like maybe something else you wanted to do?
So I first started wanting to do movies when my dad sat me down when I was 11 years old, and we watched a movie called Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Fast Times. Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
that was one of the first movies I ever saw where I was like, damn, like this, I want to make stuff like this. I
Right.
loved it. And before then, I wanted to be a rock star. I loved music. I always loved going, from like a young age, I liked rock, growing up with my dad, being a really big Nirvana fan,
Nice.
and he was really big. He was really big like grunge guy, and going from there, like I have more of a taste now for uh garage rock, experimental stuff. Like I love Talking Heads, I love Devo, I love Viagra Boys, I love Shame. Um,
Oh yeah.
a lot of English and American like new wave and no wave kind of stuff now. But to digress, like yeah, it was around like a very young age, around like 11 or 12, I wanted to start making movies. And I really didn't pick up a camera for a while. A lot. I wrote a lot when I was a kid. Originally, before was about to graduate college, sorry, not college, high school.
Okay.
I was gonna go into be into creative writing,
Yeah.
write essays, become like I don't know, a novelist, or just like some guy who just writes a bunch of poet. I don't know. I really didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
But then I got gifted a screenplay. I got gifted the Train Spotting screenplay, and I really loved the way things were formatted, like how the actions were formatted, how just the way everything was stanzed out, and the way everything was structured, and how a script compared to a book that's made in prose, which is made like in regular like text form, and compared to a script is like completely visual. It's complete to visualize something and to make it on an actual screen, to be shot and made and produced. And that's what really kind of grabbed me. And I was like, I could do that. I could make this. I think that I could get this down. And one of the first scripts I made was for a thing called Dip School, which was kind of like a parody of just like I don't know, country like I don't know, like Kentucky, Ohio, Midwestern life to be like, here's a college where we teach you how to use dip. It was stupid. It was it was dumb. Um, but I wrote that and I pitched it to my friend Jared at the time. I was a guy who I was really good friends with in high school. And he was like, yeah, it's like I got a green screen. So we shot it. And then that became my first YouTube video that I ever made. And that came out my senior year of high school. And since then, like I wrote a bunch of stuff. Some of my stuff now, most of it's now improv. I still like writing all of my films that I've written up to now, like that have toured at festivals. They've been mostly screenwritten with some areas of improv, but I've gotten more comfortable, I feel like now in my skin, more in my shoes, and more just like in my creative kind of form. So yeah, like I've been doing this now. I started technically I didn't start this till 2019. So I've only technically been a filmmaker for 5 years, but you know, plan on doing this for the rest of my life. So starting off pretty okay.
And all right, so yeah, I guess go ahead and break into what you're showing at the Dead City Film Fest, and
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. So you might want to cut this out for 1 second. I'm gonna go grab a poster. So this is the Dead City Film Festival. I have two movies that are showing on October 28th, 2023 this year. Um, and yeah, it's from 3 to midnight. We have 4 blocks of films. We have horror, we have comedy, we have experimental, and we have a mishmash of whatever the fuck.
Nice.
It's Dayton's first underground film festival. So
At the Phoenix, it's a big deal for Fairborn.
well, it's a big deal because it's, not only is it the first Dayton Underground Film Festival, it's, one of the first like showcases, at least to the indie scene in terms of film in the Midwest for this theater to be exposed, to be shown. You know, uh the Fairborn Phoenix, it's a 15,000 square foot historical movie theater. It hasn't been running, like it's only been running now for the past 2 years as like an event hall. But
Yeah,
this
very
event,
select
I
stuff.
feel like will really solidify it to be like a bona fide like movie house to show, top dollar good stuff at. And I am
Yeah,
honored to have not only one but two movies showing. The first one I have that's showing is my junior film I made in film school. So it was made last year. It was called Video Masters. That's going to be showing on the 28th. And then I'm having the world premiere of my newest film that hasn't shown anywhere. This will be the first time it's showing ever in history. Uh, my senior film called Danny Tucker Kung Fu Master. And that one I'm very, very proud of. And I'll be doing a Q&A on that one too on the 28th. So
very
that
nice.
one's gonna be a big one. And we have 500 capacity in this
Yeah.
theater. So we're trying to sell this out. So if you know at I'm talking to you, I'm talking to the audience, I'm talking to you, okay?
People out there.
People out there, listen to me here, all right? If you want to come to Dead City, let me know. It's $5 to get in. We got food trucks. We got we got a great after party afterwards. We have a punk band that's gonna be performing around midnight until whenever we get too drunk to run the festival. So yeah, it's gonna be a great time. Both my films are showing. Come there. It's $5. $5 to see over 20 movies from local filmmakers. We have some filmmakers from New York, some from Chicago. We got one filmmaker that entered something from Ukraine. So
Very
yeah, it's a really, really good mix that we got going on there. Great way to come together for the arts community of Ohio. The trifecta. We got Cincinnati, we got Columbus, we got Dayton.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm really excited. I'm not gonna lie. It's one of the highlights, I guess, coming to my town right now.
I know,
My
right?
town.
I, you know, I'm moving. With me moving like in less than a month now, it's kind of bittersweet, but at the same time, I'm just really excited to kind of just show my community like the kind of movies that I have. Video Master has shown once before. It showed back in May at the Neon Theater.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be a really good time, really good way to just again just kind of show the community, yeah, here's these movies, and I'll be back at some point, but hope you enjoy my stuff. If you want to contact me, I'll be out west. So
All right, so
yeah.
here's one of my favorite vibe osmosis questions. If you're stranded on an island and you could bring one thing with you, what would you bring?
What I would bring.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's a good question. I don't want well, what have been answered in the past? Do you know? Do you have those written down? What
Oh, I mean, I have notes of majority of them, but yeah, I mean, they are pretty. I mean, almost everyone has a different answer. Almost.
I would say, man, that's a real tongue twister. Um, man, I don't know. I feel like if I were to go nuts, like if I were to be on a stranded island and go just completely insane, I'd probably, want to try to laugh my ass off before I would die.
Yeah,
So I would bring myself a copy of Freddy Got Fingered on DVD. That's what I would bring.
DVD player.
No, just the DVD. I'm just gonna laugh at the box the entire time. Um,
Like, I got this, guys.
I got this. I got this. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what I would bring to me on a desert island. DVD copy of the 2001 hit comedy Freddy Got Fingered, starring Tom Green and Rip Torn.
Um, Another famous vibe boss question. It's the osmosis of all osmosis. What music are you listening to lately?
Lately, I've been listening to a lot of the Viagra Boys. They're some of my favorite musicians currently out right now. Um, Recently, the Lemon Twigs were in Columbus. I didn't get to see them, unfortunately, but I had some friends of mine see them. And they were at the YSO studio last week.
I,
So
I I did listen to that on YSO, but I have seen Lemon Twigs before like COVID, and so it's kind of like I like that every time whenever a good band comes near my way, but it is always hard to like break away from. I don't know. Lately, I've just been more recluse and like trying to just stay focused on like what I want to get done or accomplish.
I hear that.
Which it's a struggle on its own. I say in the daytime, it's the most I've been. Like I'm typically not up at this time or like not a real person at this time. So it's just like I do what I can whenever it's.
You're a man of the night.
I
That's
Yeah, it's been
all
a
right.
night crawler for a while. Well, see, what happened was whenever we were traveling on the van, our friend, they were a dancer. So like during, we dropped them off at the club, and me and my friend, we'd either go to the club or we go back to the hotel and work on music like all night. And then go pick, her up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and sometimes it was 6 in the morning. So it was like you're really staying up like all night until like, the early morning time, and then it's like that's whenever you take it back in and you realize like last night was a good time. That's just been the vibe.
At the height of COVID, I my sleep schedule, because I was lucky enough. I enrolled in film school in 2019. I just graduated this year, so 4 years in and out. I feel very lucky to have not have to do a fifth year or a sixth year or more, so less money out of my fucking pocket.
Yeah.
But
Now that they're making us
but
repay, or
mm,
yeah, yeah, they want.
yeah. Gonna be doing that sweet repayment for working kitchen jobs. That's
Yeah.
fucking horrible.
Okay.
Um,
And
but
five
but what
osmosis.
what
Five
what I,
osmosis.
what I was getting to, what I was getting to for 1 second was
All
at
right.
the height of COVID, my sleeping
Yeah.
schedule was that I would get up at noon, I would go on Zoom, and I would leave it just like on repeat. I would just leave it on with my camera not even on, and I would typically just like I'd go out to eat. I'd get like takeout from a Chinese place or somewhere. I'd play Red Dead Redemption 2 for
Yeah.
8 hours, and then after that, I would edit either stuff for YouTube or I'd work from home, and that was it. Like my hours were from noon to around 4 a.m. at night. And it was just that for, I would say, half a year. And that's part of the reason why I have my brain is so scattered, right? Like as I am as a person. But we all went through that experience. So yeah. But anyways, go
Yeah.
on.
The all right, so like besides like the movies on your back wall, I'm sure that's probably some of your favorite movies. So go ahead and shout out like some movies that you've seen recently that like maybe you haven't seen before or shouting out or like anything that like any
So
shows and stuff like that.
recent movies I've seen that I've really liked. So my favorite film that I've seen so far this year is Ari Aster's Beau is Afraid. I
Oh,
feel like that had probably the most layers to it. It was also the hardest I'd laughed at a theater at like in a theater so
nice.
far this
I did
year.
I did laugh the first time I added some stuff, but towards the end, I was just like, what the fuck am I getting myself into? Like,
It got
damn.
dark. It got really, really
Uh,
fucking dark towards the end
yeah.
there. Like I mean like I've only seen it once. I haven't seen it a second time, and I need to get a copy of it. But
Yeah.
the first time I saw, I kind of knew. I was like, Bo got molested by his mom. It's
That's
obvious.
not.
It's fucking obvious in the movie because it took my co-writer friend Joey. He watched for a second time, and he's like, dude, he's like, Bo got fucking diddled, man. And I'm like, no shit. Did you watch the movie? Did you pay attention the first time? Like it's kind of fucking obvious. But
I don't know.
so my number one so far this year is Beau is Afraid. My second, I love Bottoms. I just saw Bottoms last month.
I watched
Really,
like 5 minutes of it.
really great comedy. Shout out to, more female directors directing comedies. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was very goofy and gay. And yeah, I was all about it. I kind of, wish there was more just kind of funky sort of comedies like that. Um, and what else do we got here? You're gonna make me want to pull up my letterbox.
Yeah, I know.
I'm really tempted to pull that shit up because
To me, like
uh
I'm so bad at like going like listing off like the movies that I've watched. Like, it's like because in a week, like I say, in one day I probably watch at least 3 to 4 movies, and they're never ever just like a sweet 1 hour 30 minute movie. It's always like 2 hours and 30 minutes, 3 hour
so
movie. And
so
you're just like,
so far this year I've watched 87 movies.
all right,
Um and I
maybe
mean
not how many I watched.
I can list off a few that like I've really liked and a few that I haven't liked. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
recently saw The Beach Bum last
I
week
watched that.
when I was in Florida, and I absolutely loved that. I mean, a big Harmony Korine fan. Um, I saw Rushmore, Wes Anderson's second movie this year. I'd never seen it.
Damn, that was your
Couldn't-
first time ever.
That was my first time ever seeing
Uh,
Rushmore.
I did.
Fantastic movie. I loved, seeing like horny, young, like Jason Schwartzman. It's very modern, I would say, with like the MILF drama
Yeah.
that is shown in Rushmore.
He
Not
was
only that, but
he was the
also,
youngest in that.
oh yeah, that was like his first role.
Yeah, he was good.
That was his first movie role, and it kind of set the bar for where he
Yeah,
should be and where
yeah,
his
I
career
agree.
would go.
To the serious end
Um,
than you.
I
Did you watch
saw I
the Beach Boys?
saw I saw the Holy Mountain for the
Oh,
first
nice.
time this year. Um,
It's a trippy movie.
Fucking trippy as hell. I felt like I was living in like a Frank Zappa and the Mothers like album cover. That's what I felt like the entire time. Well, so this year I got Lyme disease
Lime,
for
okay.
the first time, and that was horrible. And
All right.
the viewing experience of me seeing the Holy Mountain. So I was sitting on the couch of my neighbor's apartment, like sitting like this, and we're gonna act like this is a Cutwater canned cocktail. We had canned Mai Tais that I had gotten. And we were like, oh yeah, sure. And I'm like cranked on antibiotics for like the past week. And I'm like, oh, okay, I haven't drank yet, but it'd be fine to drink on antibiotics, right? No. So during the entire time I was watching the Holy Mountain, I
Yeah.
was out of my mind, just like because like I felt like someone was like taking like a toilet plunger and doing this with like both of my ears the entire time. Like I'm watching this like naked Spanish Jesus like looking dude like walking through the fucking desert in a tracksuit. I'm like I'm like, what is happening? So yeah, like absolutely loved it. I had a great time with. I love the Holy Mountain. I really need to watch his other film, El Topo. I really need to see El Topo because that's been recommended
Just
to me
out.
by like five of my friends, and they've been gaslighting me to be like, dude, you've never seen El Topo? And I'm like, yeah, I haven't seen El Topo. I had Lyme disease this summer. I was kind of sick. So yeah.
I say it's like a mixture between film heads and druggies.
All right. All
Like if
right.
you take drugs, you might know.
So where are we at here? Number four,
Yeah.
my fourth favorite movie. We're gonna go from one to five. So this is my fourth favorite movie so far this year. And when you edit this, you can like put up the posters on the screen if you want to. Um, this was Three Women by oh my
Uh,
God, what's it?
but
Robert Altman.
yeah, I already know. It has Kirsten Stewart in that one, or is that?
It has Shelley Duvall,
Yeah, yeah,
Sissy
Shelley Duvall.
Spacek.
Old movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I it's in my top four now on my letterbox. I was blown away by absolutely immaculate vibes. I've never seen a movie that has captured like a mix of like a Midwestern and a California vibe so fucking well than Three Women. Like it's like very like I don't know even to say it's like pessimistic cowboy kind of attitude and like mixed with like these undertones of like I don't know like second wave feminism like it was really charming. It was a charming sad but also like fucking like just incredible narrative in the movie. Like it's so awkward and it's so like comedic, but at the same it's almost like if you were to like if someone was given a what's his name? I don't like him. He's kind of a bad person, but I like his movies. He made um oh my God. Oh, he made Annie Hall. What's his name?
Woody Allen.
Yeah. It's
I
like
love
it's
him.
like it's like if you took like a Woody Allen script and you mixed it with like you took out way it was way like way less more dialogue and just way more like I don't know like if you gave a Woody Allen script to like Agnes Varda, that's what Three Women is like. Is
All right. So here's my Woody
amazing.
Allen. It's like I just don't know what's going on with me anymore. You see, I still want to smoke weed and I still want to drink beer and not have to do anything. I just don't get what's going on with me.
And you only woke up like what 2 hours ago?
He's like, oh, he's just like, man, I still gotta walk down the street and get a cup of coffee and hit on a couple whores. Like, like there's just some stuff about Woody Allen. I'm like, what is your life like in New York whenever you project this on New York film? I don't know. And many aspects though, I totally see what you mean about kind of like the translation or like a prototype of about like kind of certain structures you have to follow through and able to like really get there, especially as a director. uh,
Mhm.
this is leading up to my next question. Like, what's your favorite part about like working or processing on like a project on a film? Or is it like the writing process? Is it like actually getting to the nitty-gritty of recording or editing?
I would say probably that my favorite part of it is just being on set. Like as much as I love writing and I love, just like the creative process of like, crafting these characters and creating these scenarios and like you know, really like setting up and building out like the basis of your world and like, you know, yeah, like crafting up from that. My favorite part of it is like being on set and being fed, and then also just talking to my actors and trying and like getting the performances and getting the shots and like the that I my favorite like times on a set, and in the moment I'm not maybe the happiest, but when I look back on it I'm like, damn, we fucking accomplished like a bunch that day. I accomplished a bunch. My cinematographer accomplished a great ton. Like my editor is going to look at this footage and he's gonna love it. Like, and in the moment I'm like this with like a Sharpie, like I have like a cigarette in my mouth, and like I'm like scratching out like lines of dialogue in the script, and I'm like writing new dialogue and shit. But and I'm like stressed out of my mind. Like I'm like drinking like three monsters. Like it's insanity. But at the same time, I love that. I love, the act of just sitting like in a chair and, like doing these takes, really seeing like what I wrote and what, I've been working towards and what like all my crew has helped me out with and what they have crafted actually come to fruition right then and there. I mean, I would say being on set is just as much exciting as seeing the movie actually premiere. And I hold that completely. That's just me though. But yeah, actually being on set and physically being there directing and being a part, like being in the shit, like that's my favorite part.
Here's a funny question. Did you ever watch the movie The Room before The Disaster Artist?
Yeah, I watched. Yeah,
Same
I
here.
the first time I watched it was my freshman year of high school. I was over at a friend's house, and he was like, "You ever heard of The Room?" And I like watched YouTube videos on it before, and I was like, "Yeah, I've heard of it, never watched it." We watched it. We fucking laughed. It was a great time, But
True.
I mean, yeah, I saw it before the James Franco shit.
What I thought was I remember whenever I first watched it, I seen it trending on uTorrent, and I had BitTorrent at the time, so like I used to uTorrent the shit out of movies. That's how I've watched a lot of movies, just like
Hmm.
ripping and ripping, turning on that VPN and like enjoying them later. But whenever I finally watched The Disaster Artist and I got kind of the gist of like what it kind of took for such a weird person to really conjure up like that sort of energy even
Right.
I was wondering like whenever you are kind of DIYing it, is it always like I just need to like find this time to like write up a new idea, or is it kind of like situational, like in their case it was like obviously something happened in Tommy's past where he had to write about some trauma, but and a lot of those aspects you see like the realism, the human aspect of it, the comedy, like weird thing coming together, like the energy happening. Do you think like before you even get to the filmmaking part that you're still trying to conjure up like what's going to be, you know, conjuring up or happening in general? You know what I mean?
So I think I'm confused by your question. Are you trying to say like,
Before you even get to the project, are you like trying to conjure up like where all this is going to come from and like write it down, or you're just shooting like your shot with like how I want the script to be or what I want the actors to be? Like what kind of stuff do you think like like where it comes from or like what inspires it?
so
It's
like
really
where a
hard.
lot of my stuff comes from is, I mean, I feel like in order for you to really be like a successful filmmaker is that you have to fucking love it. You have to love movies. You have to love this shit. You have to be completely engulfed in it. And I feel like that one of the ways that I am directly inspired is it just depends on stories. It just depends on what kind of stories, whether that be like shit that I've read. Maybe it's not even a book. Maybe it's like a chapter of a book. Maybe it's like a specific character that I'm like obsessed with, in a certain movie or some certain like that, and like I kind of like conjure up that idea from there. There's certain ideas too that do like come from the actual like life events and stuff like that. The one piece of advice that I hated when I got in film school, and I still stand by what my word is that you never write what you know. You write what you like. You can definitely base your movies and write what you know, but if you just write what you know, you're gonna make boring fucking movies. And by that I mean like, you know, you take someone who like works at Burger King and they go on Tinder and they're like, oh, I can't find love. Woe is me. And they're working a fast food job, and that's the movie. It's like, no, 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 no. Like
Yeah,
you have to
too, man.
you really have to like you really have to like be inspired by other people's stories. You have to be inspired. But to be inspired is to not, you know, you know, can completely base shit off of you. To be inspired is to be inspired by other, to be influenced by other people's media and works, whether that be like paintings or novels or, fantastical just like stories and shit. Like, people that like when George Lucas made Star Wars, he wasn't writing what he fucking knew. When Steven Spielberg wrote Indiana Jones, he wasn't actually getting ran over by fucking boulders. He didn't know any of that shit. They were writing about shit they were obsessed with and they loved it, and that's what turned out to be successful films for themselves. So yeah, like what I'm trying to get at this is like short, long story short, um, I'm just inspired by what's around me. Again, whether it be like with my newest, like the feature I'm writing right now, which is about a relationship I went through, or the film after that I'm also writing currently, which is about three Indian brothers who were bank robbers in the '70s, and then they funnel the money into a bowling alley where then they have to dig up the money again and go on the run once again. Like
Pretty
that's
brilliant.
not based off of my life. None of
Right.
that shit is. But
Yeah,
you
that's a good
can
example.
it's a give or take sort of situation. You should absolutely just write what you like and write about what you're obsessed with and write about what you give a shit about. Because at the end of the day, if you don't give a shit or if you're not absolutely obsessed with what your movie or what you're writing about, what it is, then there's no point in making it.
For like, and one example for me, like whenever I'm making songs, or recording, and like I'll show them to like my friend, or like I'll show them to like my girlfriend, or if I play it for my girlfriend, like in front of her, it's like some of the things like I always get back is like the things that you said, like those lyrics, like like obviously you didn't go and write like rob a bank, but what inspired that? If I singing about like a love song and it's like about a crush or whatever, but you're not in love and you don't have a crush, then like who is that really about? And I'm like, in my point of view, it's like it's not like my story, it's storytelling. It's still trying to fit pieces together of like maybe like what I want to know, what a song could be different than like what I typically do.
Right.
Especially if I improv a lot, where it's like, oh, like you said that in that improv song, but like where did those lyrics or ideas come from? Like, do you actually feel or think that way? And a lot of the times it's like, I think I like to flip back to Nirvana. It's like they may be really nice, cool guys that you can actually like, talk to about like other stuff, but whenever you hear their music, it's very heavy, dark, or has like a lot of different meanings and metaphors. That's whenever I'm like, well, you can see like there's more to it than just like me sitting here singing like I'm Elvis cover song. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah.
and that I try to still like incorporate like I guess like personal experiences into like a song, but I'm not trying to be like, well, my day to day was just like this, and this is how I like want things to be, perceived as. And I think that's a lot of the misconception I think about like spirit navigators or myself in general is like you make all this really trippy, noisy stuff, but like, are you always that one character? And that's
No.
one thing I think I like to always see is like people that like have this like already like idea about who I am whenever they like never like hung out or known me. I'm guessing that's just how it goes for like film directors because they have people that want to make films inspired by them, even though it's a completely different genre or style or whatever. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, like, like filmmakers, a real filmmaker, to some people is what they call an auteur. And an auteur is like someone who has like a very definitive style, very definitive look. Like,
definitely.
I mean, like we talked before, Alfred Hitchcock, uh,
Yeah.
fat bald dude in a suit who's like, looks like the fucking penguin, and he directs like thrillers. Like, he's an auteur. Or like
Yeah.
another guy, for example, Orson Welles, like
Definitely.
big, like, slick back mustache, like cigar smoking, like
Yeah.
suave sort of
There.
guy who makes a lot of like dramas. Or Wes Anderson, the skinny as a rail, long haired twink
So
that,
weird.
yeah. Or like, or
He
Quentin
doesn't look like what
Tarantino,
you
a kind of
imagine.
guy who's like, Quentin Tarantino's like,
Yeah,
it's like,
he is
you
hype.
gotta talk like this. It's like, the thing about Reservoir Dogs is that I almost made it for $30,000, and I was going to shoot on 16 millimeter film. And I decided, you know what? I called up my buddy Harvick Keitel, and I was like, "Can you make this movie for me? Can you fund this for me?" And he's like, "Sure, Quentin, sure." So yeah, like yeah, a tour theory is overrated, but at the same time, I think it's essential if you want to define yourself as a quote unquote film, like celebrity filmmaker. Like, you have to be almost just as eccentric as your films. I feel like a lot of people who are tour directors typically are also director actors, or actors who become directors, kind of like Clint Eastwood, or I mean, there's so many out there. I don't want to call in Ben Affleck because Ben Affleck's movies fucking suck. But yeah, like, you have to have some standouts. You have to be just as big as your movies, and to a certain extent. You don't want to get an inflated ego because that's gonna get you nowhere. But yeah, absolutely.
All right. So one of my favorite that guys are the actors that have made interesting movies. Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah.
Um, obviously, like the ones with James Franco where he's like a male prostitute is definitely high up there.
I've never actually
Pedro
seen any
Gallo.
Nicolas Cage like directed movies.
Oh, he's great, dude. He's great. The best one is the main one is the one with James Franco, which is, he really did lay out like
Oh,
his.
he only directed one. It
It
was, yeah, it
it
was.
was them. All right. So I have to say the other ones are producers. Yeah, I just say
Yeah, because
the other ones are like produced by Nicolas Cage and just like he's just like involved. Other than that, it's like I don't know.
like
Very.
a lot, like Pig. He produced Pig.
I do like Pig.
Um, what'd you say?
I do like Pig a lot. I was.
I I I I, I fucking love Pig. He also produced like I never saw this movie. I never saw The Unbearable Weight